Start of the day, can they be a heartbreaker for a team like Rogue that is borderline playoffs? That is their mission now, to try and make as many people really unhappy as possible.
Absolutely the case. Let's see if a change in Vitality breathes new life on the Rift, or if Rogue can take one step closer to the postseason.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. I'm Medic. I'm joined by Vedius, and we are ready to get on into week 7. Split's gone by so fast, Vedius.
Yeah, it's gone super fast. And for Vitality, it's kind of do or die right now, Medic, because a loss here is going to make their road to playoffs
impossible.
Impossible.
Yeah, then
exactly.
they can't get to playoffs if they lose this game.
So there are a lot of stakes on the line, and the man in the mid lane, Selfie, has come to try and help Vitality out of what is a very difficult situation. We already heard it from the analyst desk. Frost talked about, will Selfie necessarily be the solution that this team needs? A lot of question marks. I definitely know that Saken got quite a lot of criticism thrown towards him over the last few weeks, and we'll see if Selfie can be that change that the team needs. I'm excited to see what they can do. I think the Skeanz has had a pretty effective early game, but I think that when you look at Rogue as a team, something that Inspired often showcases is a very similar playstyle to that of Xerxes, which is track, control, mitigate. Because a lot of Rogue's advantages come from just their strong laners across the board. Larssen, Finn, Hans, all very talented players that if left isolated in terms of their 1v1, they often come out on top, even in matchups that they're not supposed to win. So an extending laning phase where they're just free to farm, where they get to control the pace of the game, that is the play style, rather, that Rogue love to adhere to. So the question is, can Skeanz and Selfie upset that?
Can you throw a wrench in the works if you're the draft as well for Vitality? Because, of course, Duke, when he was on Splice, was known for those more scaling comps, those late-game comps that played around team fights a lot of the time. Here, you're saying if you do that into Rogue, they're likely just to be able to outskill you because of the mechanical prowess of their laners.
Well, it depends, because what we've also seen from recent weeks is Inspired has been way more gank focused whenever he gets his hands on the LEC Sin. Level 2 ganks are plenty, and when they went up against Origin, Inspired got shut down and controlled by Xerxes. It was it was like watching an older brother beat down on his younger brother. He's trying to reach for the remote, but every time it's just out of arm's reach. And I think that Inspired has showcased that he can be that aggressive early game jungler, but for someone that can track you as well as you often track enemy junglers, sometimes it can be hard for you to have an impact. And if that first gank doesn't pay off for Inspired, sometimes he doesn't have those same follow-ups that we see from other junglers like Razork, who even if he fails once, he's like, I'm going to gank again and again, right? And that's what I admire a lot about Skeanz. I think that even as a young player, he's showcased a lot of aggression in terms of his playstyle. Lee Sin is a champion that he loves to frequent and often plays towards top side. And I'm curious as to where they're going to put their focus. Will they continue to play through top side of the map? Will they stick to the strategy of trying to play through Cabochard? Will we see a little bit more investment into Selfie? New on the roster, returning to the LEC stage. How will he perform? We're going to be jumping into this game. It's Vitality versus Rogue. Sing, Medic, sing.
I'm not going to
sing. Your heart
I do that on my stream at home, okay? I'm not going to do that here. I feel the 100,000 people or so listening might be a little bit disgraced at my singing voice. But we'll see what picks and bans we get. The Pantheon already removed. Of course, we are still on 10.4, although the patch has rolled around to 10.5 on live servers. And Pantheon, not too surprising a ban.
Yeah, he's risen in priority a lot for pro teams because of how flexible he is. At Worlds, we saw him 100% ban rate. Following Worlds, many pros said he's still decent, but he's probably not first pick. But then with a lot of the adjustments that have happened over the last few weeks where Pantheon hasn't really been touched, he has steadily risen back in terms of priority. And now I think that he's one of the go-to junglers along things like the GRAGAS, who currently is still up and available.
We'll see if he gets banned out. The Aatrox and the Ornn, not too surprising at all, alongside the Senna, fasting a possibility, of course, for comp in the bottom lane. Aphelios is the next ban, and we'll see where Rogue decide to go. Is it going to be the GRAGAS removed? Instead, they say, we'll get rid of Victor. Selfie was well known for his Victor when he used to play him.
A respect ban going towards Selfie. It was something that he frequented a lot, a very big comfort pick, and many mid laners have had, or I've been talking about how powerful this champion can be, especially if he gets to free farm and how potent he can be in the late game. But this does, of course, leave the Syndra up and available, and Vitality are going to grab that one. A very flexible champion, can be played in multiple roles, primarily mid and bot lane. We did see it in the jungle for a while, but I think in the current meta, that's not really where you'll see it right now. But one of the great strengths of Syndra and why you can first pick her is because of that flexibility. So I don't want to see Vitality lock in their bot lane just yet. I want to keep their options open so that they can keep that flexibility available too.
That's what you want to do. You want to keep the enemy guessing for as long as possible. Sett and GRAGAS, the locks. You already talked about how strong GRAGAS can be. We'll see if Inspired can get those ganks off early on. And Finn, back on his Sett we expect in the top lane, has actually yet to win with the champion in the 2 games he's played her.
Well, of course, remember that the Sett is also a flex pick.
Yeah.
We've been seeing, I think it was over in the LCK where a KALISTA Sett bot lane was being played. I think it's super fun. I think it can be really strong. And given that he's just seen a Renekton, that can be a pretty challenging matchup at early lanes. So maybe Rogue are going to do the switcher. Maybe they want to put the Sett in mid. Maybe they want to put it bot. Expectations are that it won't be in the jungle. But if they do go for an early Braum here, it will highly indicate where this Sett is going to go.
Definitely will. The Renekton, of course, will try and follow that Sett around through the lanes. As you said, the Syndra can still be flexed to mid or bot, so Vitality yet to show all of their cards, holding a few of those close to their chest. Sett likely to be top lane now as the Nautilus is locked in. However, we have seen some mid Nautilus in the LCK and, of course, at Worlds last year.
We also saw it here. Origin did play it
yeah,
last week, so it was also something that Nukeduck played into Syndra, so perhaps something that Rogue have been thinking about themselves. We'll have to wait and see. A lot of flex options available on the Rogue side. Vitality, though, pretty cut and dry, very early game focused. A lot of early game power and setup with the Syndra. Renekton in the top lane as well. Vitality investing in what I think we've seen a lot of from Vitality so far this split, which is fast, high-paced early games. It's usually their mid-game where they really start to falter because people get caught out. They don't know how to manage their waves properly, and they end up getting punished as a result.
You can see Rogue still banning out mid lane champs in the form of Cassio. Of course, can still be flex bot. The Yasuo removed, so you get rid of that Yasuo-GRAGAS combo that we always talk about. And now Rogue deciding where they want to put their next ban. Get rid of a support, I say. Braum will be removed from the pool.
The Yasuo ban being taken away from Rogue to deny that Yasuo-GRAGAS combo. There are also a lot of knockups right now on the side of Rogue, so they don't want to allow that one through. Thinking about what other bans they could go for, I think that their priority is going to be securing their bot lane, and because the Yasuo ban to me indicates that they are thinking about Syndra mid, and I think the Lucian ban also suggests this. So now we're thinking about what could be a good bot lane. I think for Steeelback, Thresh is something that he could think about. Leona is another one. MF, of course, is still up and available, and while against the Varus, you can suffer against some of the poke that he's able to pull out, I still think that an MF Leona gives you a lot of team fighting power, gives you an easy lane to play around as well. But given that they're already hard committing to the Renekton and Lee Sin, perhaps they don't want to get super strong on the bot side of the map, because then they have too much early game options, and that can be a problem when you have too many lanes to play around and you obviously can't play around them all.
Do you want to see if you can get some scaling on your side or something safe? Comp, of course, has played the Ezreal a lot of times here in the LEC. Instead, it's going to be XAYAH RAKAN, so very strong duelist in the bottom lane, matching into Hans Kalista. Now, he hasn't played that at all this split, but he has played it 16 times across the course of his career. Only has a 43% win rate on it, so we'll see if he can better his average with a win today.
It's funny because when I think of Hans, I actually think a lot of Kalista, one of these high mechanically skilled champions.
I mean, it's his 4th most played across the course of his career.
Yeah. So it's one of those things, though, that for him to have such a low win rate on it, I say low, 43%, not the worst. And then we're going to round things out with an AZIR. Okay, so I'm never really a fan of, like, AZIR last picks, but I think in the context of the comp, it's not too bad. Let's think. Let's start off by talking about Vitality, because their composition is pretty straightforward. Very early to mid-game focused. Very much about trying to control your strong early laning phase. Very much playing through top side of the map. Against KALISTA Nautilus, I'm curious as to how this matchup actually looks. I think that early laning phase, the XAYAH RAKAN should be able to get push, but once you get a couple more levels under your belt, the all-in power of a KALISTA Nautilus feels very strong to me. So I feel like the later into the laning phase we go, Hans, Summer, and Vander will have an advantage, but I also think at 3 items is where Rogue's comp really shines. I think that their scaling is exceptionally strong, and they have such long range with the AZIR as well. The ability to just harass your opponents down, keep them at arm's length in these team fights, the sheer amount of mobility that is available on the KALISTA as as well, I think is going to make things very difficult for Vitality to play these comps later on to the game if they're even with Rogue. So the laning phase is going to be very important for Vitality.
Well, we did say before Pick and Ban even started, Vitality would want to get ahead early on. They want to stop Rogue from just being able to scale up, and the draft has mirrored that. Has played into that sort of idea. And we have just jumped out of Champion Select, so it'll be a couple of minutes before we get right on into the game. I believe Champion Select is being remade as we speak, so apologies, of course, for that delay. But we'll jump right back in as soon as possible.
So, something that we heard Finn say on Euphoria was that you've got to be afraid of Vitality, because at this point they don't really have anything to lose. As you said, Medic, one loss will eliminate them from playoffs, which means that just kind of throw everything that you've got at the wall. See what sticks, right? And it seems like they're going all out on the early game composition. They want to try and hard commit into early snowballing. One of my concerns is this bot lane, largely because it is a strong lane to be able to set up plays around, because it is XAYAH RAKAN, and when you have level 6, it can be potent. But against KALISTA and NAUTILUS, that's a scary duo to play against. It spikes very hard at 6 as well. And I don't think you're going to necessarily play strong weak side, and I question how much stronger XAYAH is relative to KALISTA in the mid game around the 2 to 3 items. So I think if you just leave this lane in isolation, it's going to be a problem.
Okay.
But of course, you've drafted towards playing towards top side. So if I'm Vitality, I'm thinking, okay, we want to play towards early. We want to play towards top lane early so we can force enemy top out, a TP out from top lane. Then we want to invest our TP top lane into the bot side of the map. We actually want to bring our top pressure into the bot lane. Yeah. So that we can use the strength of our early game comp to actually gain advantages and make sure that this bot lane isn't left in isolation.
And that's why it's important when we say things like you want to play through top lane. It doesn't always mean you're looking to get all your kills in the top lane or you're looking to get top turret. It means you get your top laner ahead, whether it be a summoner spell advantage or whether it be a few kills, and then you use that in other places on the map. Because if you're not translating the pressure, as you said, things like KALISTA, Nautilus will just become mid-game nightmares.
Well, I think it's also comp dependent, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's like Renekton versus Gangplank, then you just want to hard play through top lane. You want to kill that Gangplank as many times as you can. But you've also got to remember that against a set, the longer the game goes, the harder he gets to dive, because his W makes it extremely obnoxious. When you're trying to collapse on him under a turret, if you're coming in from 2 sides, boom, you're now stunned because of his E. There's a lot of setup for set that can make it very challenging to actually dive him as a champion. So again, early focus, you want to try and pressure him, force out an early TP, and then you want to use a TP advantage to then try and play through bot.
As you may have noticed, we've experienced an account-related issue on stage. League management are currently investigating, but as we wait, we're going to send it back to the analysts.
Thank you very much, Vedi. We got the complete draft. I have heard from our production team that while they recreate the draft, nothing will change. So let's talk about what we see. We've got pick order. This is going to be final team comps, actually. Yes, that's correct.
Final team comps here.
So it's not going to be the pick order, but talk me through what you think from start to finish.
Look, so Vedius, I think, did a very good job of covering it on the caster desk, but what this comes down to is you have outscaling very clearly from Rogue, where once 3 items hits, honestly, even sooner than that, I think like 2.5. I like 25 minutes, you're going around objectives. There's no way for Renekton to teamfight into an AZIR and a KALISTA. It is just not possible. He somehow has to find a flash onto him, and then even then, you're going to have a QSS eventually come through from KALISTA. So like in teamfights, the only way I can see a miracle happening is like Skeanz finding the perfect kick, but I think they're on such a timer here, it's so hard to play.
Yeah, I mean, I echo the same sentiments. I think that this is a bit hard mode for Vitality, that there is that timer. I do want to talk about the Syndra priority pick. So obviously this is in final composition. Syndra has been seeing a lot of attention on usually red side ban, and when she isn't banned in the ERLs and in the LEC, she has been a priority first pick for the blue side. I think that's because of her flexibility. Also the fact that blind, she just does incredibly well in so many matchups. And I don't necessarily agree with it in terms of how many different types of like champions that we have and how powerful they are, simply because I feel that we are in more of a scaling oriented, more tanks are running around, and like Syndra has decent scaling, like she can burst your squishies, she has great CC, when she walks up to a tower she can throw out Scatter the Weak and just try to see, like she can do a pick comp, she can do a team fight comp, like I see the versatility and I understand why they do it, but she actually loses a lot of kill pressure on a lot of these champions, and I don't know. I don't think that she's as valuable as I've seen her globally gravitated towards, and I think it's more so the player's comfort with Syndra.
Yeah, I mean, I still think there's a lot of value in this pick, right? You
I'm not saying she's worthless.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And you even saw in this draft too, where Syndra was first picked, Rogue waited until their 5th pick to lock in a mid laner. And that's because they were waiting to see whether or not it was going into the mid lane for Selfie or down bot side until they locked that one in.
And I know that Comp has been known that he can play like the mages in the ADC position, so there is actual flexibility for this champion that you might not have, but I also think there are some teams, specifically our bottom teams, that don't have that flexibility with Syndra, which then she falls down lower and lower on the priority list of if you're going to first pick it.
Well, just quick update, the player is back in client and setting up. Once we get into the draft, I will let you know. But I have to ask a little bit of a pointed question now. I know in the bigger picture and as far as the analysts and even Vedius are concerned, we're leaning towards the Rogue draft. But can we not draw some positives from the fact that Vitality, they've just picked a hell for leather comp? Just put your foot down, get in there, just throw everything at them as early as you can, and if you get a lead, hope it's enough to close out. Like, I have to commend, at least if that is the strategy, if that's the game plan.
That has to be the strategy, Trevor. I will say that for Skeanz, his best champion, I think that he's shown on the stage, has been Lee Sin, so he's on a massive comfort right there. And then he has priority virtually everywhere. The Renekton, the Syndra, XAYAH, RAKAN, like, he can attack this however he wants. But if it doesn't work, this is going to feel like, if it works, you look great. If it doesn't, everyone's like, what were you doing? Why didn't you pick any scaling options? You just, like...
They're already saying that, let's be clear.
Chat's just losing its mind.
Yeah. No, honestly, I think, like, you talk about early pressure for Vitality. Like, yes, Lee Sin can play to a lot of lanes, but I think Rogue's comp is so good at absorbing pressure, right? Like, top lane, it's a set. You can't really dive him. If he keeps the lane on his side of the map, he's going to be totally fine. Mid lane, Larssen, you can't lock this guy down. It's just not going to happen. Bot lane's the only option, and even then you have to go on Hans Sama because at level 6, Nautilus can get out. So I actually want to see if Lee Sin on blue side can impact this bot lane early.
And I want all attention actually in the early game for Comp and Steeelback to see what they do with their initial waves. I'm sure our observers will catch it. XAYAH and RAKAN are one of the only bot lanes that when they get into the lane, because of the steroid on the W, and XAYAH Q, like whatever you want to do, that they can push and try to get it to bounce off the wave. Like they can clear a wave before the other wave crashes in. But if you mess that up and you are found on an extended lane, KALISTA is so punishing. I've heard all over scrims that KALISTA is terrifying champion. The teams know how strong she is, but no one is a KALISTA player. Like, for KALISTA, you have to put a lot of hours in to be really good at it, and I think one of our best KALISTA players has been left, and so now we don't necessarily have the same power, and if you do mess up the wave on XAYAH RAKAN, and KALISTA is Hail of Blades, she will run you down, and she will absolutely destroy you.
Yeah, I do like the magnifying lens on bot lane here as well for the side of Rogue, because if Inspired's going to gank anywhere, I also think bot lane is a decent option. If the waves are mismanaged, and Inspired, what he should be doing in the early phase of his jungle is not matching the same side of the jungle as the Lee Sin. GRAGAS doesn't win in these fights. He doesn't want to take a 2v2 or a 3v3 where Lee Sin is going to be there. Instead, if he can track the enemy jungle, know that Skeanz is going to be top side when he crafts his path to end towards bot side, the GRAGAS can actually make something happen there.
I can see the players are currently going through the draft, so as we're getting ourselves set up, let's summarize some points. You guys are very, very heavily invested in this bottom lane. But give me some expectations on what you want to see either team comp do.
The one that I see your question. I'm going to ignore it. Just going to soft. Okay. Because the other thing that I really want to point out is the fact that it was Nautilus on 3rd pick for Rogue. So their first 3 picks were Sett, GRAGAS, Naut, and then as Ender.
Ender, that's my name.
Like, not Shocks. Ender.
Common mistake people make.
They call me Shocks all the time.
So back to Nautilus, 3rd pick.
It's a flex pick, and we've seen it be a flex pick, but I think that this is important in reference to the KALISTA, because one of the combos that I have found is very devastating is KALISTA Lulu, because again, when you put the whimsy on KALISTA, she's just
You're
like
a terrible person.
I know. KALISTA Lulu, real strong, and so that's something to watch out for with these teams. If Rogue show a KALISTA, and then they had a Nautilus that came out as a 3rd pick that potentially could have been the flex pick, they decided to go for the AZIR. I'm just saying, there might be a potential where this is Nautilus mid to deny Syndra kill pressure, KALISTA Lulu comes out, it's busted.
We will find out. I hear the game is loading up. So now back to the original question.
What was the question?
I can
Give
answer
me
this.
some
I got it.
expectations of what you want to see.
Vitality have to pop off early. Skeanz has to get something done. I think bot lane's the best place to do it.
I think he goes
Otherwise,
top.
they get outscaled and there's no ability for them to team fight. So make it happen early, otherwise you lose.
He's going top. Come on, this is Cabochard.
Don't go
It doesn't
top
matter.
lane.
He's going top. He's going to try to break top.
Oh, well, let's find out what they do. During Champ Select, we experienced an account-related issue which has been resolved by our league officials. The teams have now finished reviewing Champion Select with the same picks and bans, and we're off to the Rift. Vedi, take it away.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. We are back. Vedius. Is he going to gank top lane? Is he going to gank bot lane? You need to split this tie.
The difference...
Just pick one. Just pick
I
one.
think he should gank top lane.
Okay, top lane it is.
But again, we said this beforehand. I want them to try and burn Sett's TP.
Yep.
I want Vitality to have TP advantage, and then I want them to invest in like a 4-man dive bot or something, right? So that's where I'm at. We'll see what they do. We're jumping into game. Junglers are what I want to track in the early game, because depending on where they start will heavily indicate their pathing. You can hear that the crowd is animated as always. Great to see.
Slightly rogue favored in the crowd, I think. I'm hearing a few more rogue chants than I am Vitality chants. I do want to bring up, it is Hail of Blades KALISTA, as they mentioned on the analyst desk. Very powerful. You get a huge amount of damage out very early on.
Yeah, I'm going to have a quick look if, well, actually, I was going to say if you started with E, but no pro player takes a skill until they actually have to hit a minion.
Yep.
But yes, basically the idea is you take Rend early, and then when you use the Hail of Blade, you can be like, what? Oh, I now have 3 Rend stacks inside of you, which is a nice setup for burst. Having a look at some of the summoner spells, I was wondering if Larssen was going to take Cleanse in this matchup, because against the Syndra, something you have to be very cautious of is the QE combo, which is a very strong gank setup tool. But he's decided to take TP. Now, something that Larssen often does when he has teleport is he will use it to, he'll shove in the wave, he'll TP back to lane, and because his enemy doesn't have the TP, he'll then use it as an opportunity to roam, even on champions like AZIR. So around the level 6 mark, keep an eye out for that when it comes to Larssen, and we'll see how the lane matchup actually plays out, because right now things are pretty even, as you kind of expect in this 1 versus 1.
Did see Inspired starting without a leash on the top side here. He went Razorbeaks into red. His bot lane delayed their entry into the lane, so Rogue have hidden knowledge of where their jungler is, whereas Skeanz was given a leash by his bottom lane, which makes it a little bit more obvious that he has started on red and is now working his way up towards the top side.
Well, Skeanz has no information that the red buff has been taken away. Of course, now he'll find out, and he'll get spotted. Inspired, what are his choices here? Looks like he's just going to keep doing the Krugs.
Yep.
This was a very standard GRAGAS clear, last split even, where you would just do full red side clear because it would guarantee you a level 3. With the Krug experience changes, it's gone back to being a very popular GRAGAS clear. He's not super reliant on the blue buff, so he's going to be more than comfortable to clear this one out and not be in too much danger.
Does also give him the option of covering Finn early on. As we said, Vitality might want to play through the top lane here. Finn has pushed up the wave, using those haymakers pretty often, and has forced Cabochard back.
So what he can now do is actually look for a cheetah recall, where he can go back to base very early, actually spend some of the early gold that he's built, and he won't lose any farm as a result of it, because there's such a big wave that Cabo has to deal with, and because, as you said, his jungler is covering for him, they're actually in a great spot. And do you remember what we said before the game started? Medic, which is the Inspired, is a very track-heavy, focused style of jungler. You can see that the vision that they've set up has constantly given them information as to what Skeanz is doing and wants to do, and they kind of have an answer for it at every turn. Inspired now going to make his way straight into the river, wants to secure the Scuttle Crab because, hey, we just saw Skeanz path up towards top side of the jungle, which means that he might move towards his bots to clear out that half of the jungle, so let's secure Scuttle and maintain vision control around this area. And of course, they did spot him on the ward in the bot lane as well. So.
And it's so important because Skeanz is the key member of Vitality when it comes to getting kills for his team. You can see he's sitting at almost 80% kill participation. He's top of all junglers in the league. So things aren't happening unless Skeanz is there for Vitality.
So now you can see that Finn, he is a little bit behind in farm. We didn't get to see the whole wave setup, and I'm going to assume that a large part of that was because he was more focused on pushing the wave rather than getting a good guaranteeing his last hits, but at the same time, there's a big wave building up, so we'll see how much of the gap he does close as a result. But the important thing to note is that he's picked up a cloth armor. Extremely valuable against Renekton early on, and we can see that this Renekton pick not generating a huge amount of early pressure in the set, is just kind of having his way with the lane for the time being.
I mean, what you really want right now is to get Finn, force Finn to get away, because he was actually a full level behind on Cabochard. If you can get him away from all of this extra experience, then it would be great.
This would be the time where you'd like threaten a dive, consider like forcing Finn off, like use your pressure in mid lane to actually roam up top, have the jungler show up as well, and this is where you want to be threatening. But of course, Vitality not going to be in that position.
And it means that Finn is free to farm underneath his turret. Let's have a quick look across CS. In the bottom lane, Hans has built up a little bit of a lead. And the wave is pretty even here, so that lead is going to stick. About 7 farm up on the KALISTA. I was going to mention, as a RAKAN player who's played into this matchup a few times, it's hell. If there's no one there for you to jump back to after you jump in, you are slowed for days, and there's no way to ever get out of it. So it's difficult for Steeelback. Of course, having the Xayah by him makes it a little bit easier, but he's going to be very cautious about when he jumps in and engages.
Now, it's important to note that Cabochard basically did the same thing that Finn did, and you'll often see this with top laners, depending on how they set up that initial wave. A lot of cheater recall trades being coming back and forth. The only way you can change this is if you go back to base, buy, and then you TP in with an item advantage, because that will then force your opposition to TP as well. Otherwise, they're just going to get out-bullied in the lane just because of the item difference. So for now, both top laners not expending their TP. You can see that the farm is relatively even. The wave is now bouncing back towards Cabochard. And Finn has just hit level 6. But again, it's just this constant back and forth, ebb and flow. Cabochard going to keep this just outside of tower range as he goes for a bit of a trade.
That's a pretty beneficial trade for him. Finn will pop the Haymaker, but doesn't connect onto Cabochard, and Cabo will be on his way to 6 here. Cold the Week's going to do a lot of damage, and Finn's going to have to start walking away because Cabochard, he was eyeing him up pretty hungrily for a kill.
So Cabo can actually freeze the wave here and make Finn's life very unpleasant. Because remember when we were talking about being forced into TP? This is a situation where Finn might have to use it. Because if he doesn't, then this wave is going to get permanently frozen on him.
It's not going to do it.
All right, so he's going to fall behind a lot in terms of experience and gold.
Oh,
okay, there's the TP. Okay. I think he had to do this, otherwise the lane becomes really miserable for him because this wave is slowly pushing underneath the tower of Cabo, and that would have he would have lost a lot of farm, a lot of XP, and Cabo would have gotten like a huge advantage in that 1 versus 1. And Finn now has grabbed the early armor boots. I think a really good item up against Cabochard, and you can now see how much stronger he is in terms of those trades at early levels. So good decision there from Finn, but now Cabo has that TP advantage. So then we come back to this conversation that we kept having earlier, which is how can you use this TP elsewhere on the map? He might not have a choice because Cabo might be forced into TPing himself. Oh god. Now he's definitely forced to TP back into lane because now top wave is slow pushing towards Finn. And so this is what I was talking about, where depending on how the top laners use their TP, depends on how the other one is forced to react. And now Cabo, he's forced to use his TP, of course, because with the item difference that exists in the 1 versus 1, if he doesn't use it, his lane is going to be extremely miserable. So now there's no TP to be able to use bot side. This then gives a lot of freedom for Hans and Vander to play much more aggressively in the 2 versus 2. Which, speaking of,
has the barrier, but he's going to go down straight away. First blood to Hans. Pretty easy stuff for Rogue. They just waited in a bush and then struck.
So that early game composition that we were talking about for Vitality is now down 1,000 gold. This is what we in the business call yikes. Now, the fact that they were able to find that 2 versus 2 kill is what makes things even worse for Vitality, because both summoner spells are gone full comp. Hans and Vander have just hit 6. They only had to expend their ignite. And now we see Skeanz making his way up to the top side of the map, looking for a gank. But hey, what's that? A ward is there, Inspired is here in classic Rogue fashion. They're tracking the jungler, they're here for the counter gank.
Finn pops him back with the showstopper. There's the Haymaker, but the Baron knocks them both out of it, and Cabochard still has that Dominus proccing. Are they going to fight for it? Because Larsen's on his way up. Flash forward, the knockback from Inspired, but Cabo slices and dices straight into Larsen. So much damage coming out. Selfie's on his way up, looking for his first kill in the LEC. Takes it. And now Inspired is going to be scattered to all 4 corners of the globe. However, Vander and Hans are on the chase, and with Fate's Call, even if it misses, Selfie has no mana left at all. Hans will give Larsen his first kill of the game.
So it was a scary play initially, but it ends up paying off massively in favor of Rogue. here we see the play coming in from Vitality. They want to set up this dive onto Finn. They want to try and utilize the level advantage. And hey, things look pretty promising here, but the barrel knocks people out of the damage from Finn. Okay, a little worrying at first, but you know that Larsen's on his way. Cabochard going to commit his flash along with Finn to disengage. Good body slam there from Inspired, but then nice response from Cabo onto Larssen to almost 100 to 0 him. I like the patience from Skeanz. I wonder if it was patience or if he just didn't have enough energy.
Don't think he had enough
Either
energy.
way, he doesn't commit to it, allowing Selfie to get the play. But now, Vitality don't recognize that Rogue is already making the swap. We're 8 minutes into the game, Herald is alive, Rogue want to be moving up towards the top side of the map, and hey-ho, just as you're getting a bunch of kills, the saviors arrive, and now Hans, Sama, and Vander are sitting at 1-0-2 each. They have a lot of gold in their back pocket, they're extremely strong, and whenever they want, they can pretty much take that Herald.
You can see about 1,000 gold difference in that bottom lane for Hans Sama over Comp. Selfie did get himself a couple of kills there, but still only even with Larssen in the mid lane. He'll want to try and get this Syndra rolling because, of course, she can do a lot of work later on in the game. You can burst down someone like Hans Sama if you can get that ultimate off, the Unleash power, but it is going to be tricky for Vitality, you have to feel. No summoners on Comp. Selfie doesn't have his flash Skeanz. Cabochard also flashless. So if they want to fight around the Rift Herald, it's going to be a very difficult series of events to maneuver.
It certainly is. I think that Rogue just have so much control right now. You already heard the analyst desk talk about it. We talked about it. Rogue's scaling is just so much stronger. And even though Finn is a little bit behind, because of course that stacking wave he did miss. Yep. So that's going to hurt him. But he's now in a position where he probably shouldn't die to Renekton. He's got enough armor and health that he should be able to just hold in the 1v1. And to be honest, I think that he'll get to a point very quickly that he can out-trade him as well. This top wave is actually slowly pushing in favor of Rogue, which means that Comp is being denied even more farm. Oh, actually, no, I
not anymore.
Need to correct myself yet, because now it's pushing in favor of Comp, but a lot of farm, a lot of experience is being lost. You already highlighted the big CS difference between the 280 carries. It's already getting bigger. Larssen now looking for a play on the Selfie.
Selfie, no flash, of course, and it's an easy enough pickup. Rogue have total river control here. No wards at all for Vitality.
Yeah, and so things are already looking very bleak for Vitality. Yep. They're going to need a miracle play. They're going to need Rogue to mess up in order for them to be able to turn this one around. You can see that Comp can't even approach the wave because Steeelback is looking for a roam. And yeah, Vitality now. Let's see if they can get themselves a dive onto Finn.
Trying to find something on this map state, but Skeanz immediately backs off. They can't go for the dive. Too big of a wave building up for Rogue. It becomes very difficult now for Vitality to find anything. Of course, if they lose this game, they are out of contention for playoffs. It was going to happen sooner or later, but the question I think a few of us asked ourselves coming into this week was whether Rogue could be a spoiler to some of these teams near the bottom of the playoff race.
Vitality.
It looks like, oh, sorry, yeah, whether Vitality could be a spoiler towards some of these teams near the playoff race. Seems like they're not going to be able to get in the way of Rogue today.
No, and we talked about it. Like, Rogue's strength comes from the fact that they have good players in every position, and if you leave them alone to lane, they will just dominate you. Yep. Outside, of course, the top teams that we have in the LEC that can match them on an individual level. Like, we saw it in the bot lane 2 versus 2. They just died. They got killed. We didn't get to see the setup. We didn't get to see how it happened, but whether it be kills or whether it be level advantages or XP advantages or just the amount of pressure that they exert, it's something that you often see from Rogue, which is that their early game is very consistent. They have reliable and strong laners, and they also understand how to move around the map very well. We saw that swap from bot to top. They were able to make that counter gank happen. They've now funneled more gold into Hans Sama. What happened? He's back in the bot lane. Given the fact that he's already completed Blade of the Ruin King, 13 minutes into the game, means the Rogue is going to have full control over the bot side of the map, and Vitality, they've got such an early game focused comp that their options are now very limited.
They definitely are. We'll see if they can find anything out of it, but Rogue will be very happy with the situation they're in. Hans Sama's been funneled a huge amount of gold, has a 30 CS lead, and is now going to get that tower in the bottom lane. Here comes the showstopper from Finn, looking for the blast cone, gets kicked back by Skeanz. There's the charm. Cabochard slicing and dicing in, and in the end, Finn will fall. Skeanz gets it. Third kill of the game for Vitality, and Comp is getting some plates by himself up here in the top lane.
So, Vitality are at the very least able to punish Finn. By finding that kill, they do get a little bit of gold into their back pocket. And while, of course, these plates are valuable, Hans Sama is doing exactly the same thing in the bot lane as Larssen goes in.
Larssen jumps straight onto Selfie, former teammates on H2K, but Larssen showing Selfie why he's the one starting in the LEC at a consistent basis.
Vitality will be able to trade this tower. But Rogue still up a tower, still ahead, 2.5k gold. And Larssen is already level 11. 3 kills, nearly completed the Nash's Tooth.
Yeah, he's pretty strong.
I don't want to say the game is over.
I think you can say it.
I want to say that there's like a 90% chance that Rogue will win.
Only 90?
Yeah, because you still have to account for the fact that Rogue, multiple times, have gone to Baron and then nearly lost it.
They have had a consistent error in their mid-game where they take a fight they really shouldn't be taking, and enemy teams can get back at them. However, when you are on a comp that scales better against an early game comp and you keep getting catches like that, I think I'm going 95%. I think I'm going 95% here.
I mean, all right. I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
Okay, so here's the thing. If I said to you, you give me another kill for Rogue in the bottom lane. If I said to you, I'll give you 5 chocolate bars if Rogue win, and you have to give me 95 if Vitality win, would you take those odds right now?
No.
Okay, if I give you 10 chocolate bars if Vitality win, if Rogue win, and you have to give me 90 if Vitality win, would you take those?
I'm still
odds?
not taking that.
Really?
Are you sure you've got those the right way round? I feel like
so.
you've messed those names up.
No, because it's odds, right? So you should get less for voting on the team that's likely to win. So you would get 10 chocolate bars and I would get 90.
Yes, because you have one. Yes.
Yeah.
But we can't use percentages. Then it would be a 9-to-1 odds that Vitality win, right?
I mean, that's what we're picking.
Oh,
so, yeah, that's how I explained it, Vedius.
Okay.
Perhaps not as succinctly as I could have done, but I was trying to put it in words you'd understand as Selfie flashes away. Good escape from him on the dive there. I want to give him credit for that play, but he's going to get knocked back. Overstepped after a great flash. Here comes the fight as Skeanz jumps in. Stopwatch used by Inspired. Steeelback looking for the charm. Cabochard TPing in as well. Double charm's going to come out as Inspired flashes away from the damage there from Skeanz. The shuffle in from Larssen. Skeanz gets his base broken in 2. Larssen flashes away from Cabochard, who's going to have his show stopped right there. Larssen still alive. Vitality don't find a single kill out of it, and Rogue take 2.
Hans also tower diving in the bot lane. Hasn't used any of his summoner spells yet, but Rogue continued to dominate in these fights. Given that all the gold, or the vast majority of it, is sitting on top of Hans
It's a 2-level advantage.
Still dominated in that team fight, just goes to show how far ahead they really are. It's also just going to lifesteal all of this back.
Vander just finished his Gargoyle Stone Plate, has 4,700 gold as a support right now, 1,200 ahead of Steeelback, 3,000 difference. That's probably where I should be focusing in the AD
Yeah,
carries.
I was like, Hans.
And the only real lead for Vitality is in that top lane. Cabochard has not been able to translate the advantages he got through the waves into anything for the squad.
Yep, so we're going to have a look back at this play. Selfie used his flash a little bit earlier to dodge the knockup from Inspired. Now, I am really curious as to how Inspired actually dodges out from this queue. Wow, he actually flashes at the very last second. Wow, that is very specific timing. I'm impressed that he was able to pull that one off. Good stuff from Inspired. Good ultimate there from Finn to be able to keep Cabochard away from his mid laner. And yeah, misses the W, but still ends up coming out on top of that fight. Will secure their first Drake of the game. And now, I think Rogue need to focus on playing towards the next Herald. They can use that to really break into the tier 2 towers of Vitality.
Do they really need it? Hans Summer's almost taken a tier 2 by himself.
I mean, so the thing you always have to be careful of
right?
is playing against Syndra when you siege. The problem for KALISTA is, she is quite short range. While she does have a lot of mobility, when you get close to that tower, Syndra's like, Q, E, oh, Renekton's on your face, oh, you're dead, right? So just because you're ahead doesn't mean you can't throw, which is why I'm saying they should still be careful.
And KALISTA does a lot of throwing with those spears as well.
That's true. That is true. But you can also see Renekton top lane, so he's like, okay, I know where Syndra is, I know where the alligator is, I'm all good. I can fight birds.
He can. The spears are super effective versus birds, apparently, as Comp uses his stopwatch to try and survive. But you can see Hans Summer with the Runehands, with the Blade of the Ruin King, is pretty much unstoppable right now. He's got a chain vest in his inventory alongside the stopwatch.
He does medic, yes.
It's going to be a Guardian's Angel, I assume, on Hans Summer.
Could be a Thornmail. At this point, when you're this fed, who really cares? He can build whatever he wants.
Maximize your damage output with a Thornmail.
He's like, you know what? Our team doesn't have enough magic damage. Thornmail, that'll fix that. just want to say he's not building Thornmail. Just want to clarify.
You said it could be though. It doesn't build out of stopwatch though.
I mean, I've seen a lot of people building Sunfire Cape recently. Just like, you know what? I need a Sunfire Cape.
Works well. Immolate was buffed.
Exactly. All right, here we go.
Flash forward by Vander. There's the depth charge, and there goes Selfie. Back to the fountain. Cabochard's knocked back straight into the waiting arms of Hans Summer. It doesn't really matter if you've got a crocodile on your face when you can just spear him down. Rift Herald Live, you said they wanted to play around that. They've got 50 seconds to take it. And they're going to take that pretty darn quickly, of course. KALISTA, we always say it, so good at getting these neutral objectives.
So she did have this nerf where she actually only does 50% damage to objectives. But yeah, that was one of the things. It was funny because I remember a lot of people saying that, like, this is going to nerf the champion too hard. Like, why is this nerf even come through? And it's like, well, it's kind of unfair that she just gives you a second smite. Yep. But as you rightly said, it's still a lot of damage, and it's definitely worth respecting. So here we can see Selfie kind of setting up a bit of a bait. He then dies before the bait can come into fruition. Good Gragas barrel to separate Cabochard from the rest of his team, and Cabochard trying to dive onto Hans Summer, but as you rightly said, very little that the crocodile could do. Wait, I've now called him an alligator and a crocodile. We need to align on which one.
It depends if you see him in a while or if you see him later.
You're really proud of that one, aren't you?
I'm so proud.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever giggled like that on stream before. Hans Summer steps forward, has got the GA, doesn't even need it popped. I do want to come back to that Thornmail discussion. Doesn't build out of Chain Vest. Doesn't build out of Chain Vest, though. It builds out of Bramble Vest.
Ah, damn, of course. Yeah. My bad.
But no, we both made the mistake, so we were together incorrect.
Yeah, because it's Bramble Vest, and it's
Warden's Mail and
it's the Warden's
Ruby
Mail.
Crystal.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. I forgot that they put health on it. Just goes to show how often I build a Thornmail.
Mate, you should. Nocturne, you jump in, magic damage alongside your physical damage.
Build a Thornmail on Nocturne.
Okay, I think you can tell from the way we're talking about Thornmail and Crocodiles that this game is pretty much done.
I mean, again, we can remind people that we talked like a lot during the draft. Alice talked about it, we talked about it, where Rogue had the better scaling comp, so Vitality needed to get an early game advantage. The fact that they died 2v2 in the bot lane, Rogue was turning a lot of their plays in their favor, and now they have a 7k gold advantage. Just because of the nature of Vitality's composition, it is very difficult for them to turn this game around unless of a miracle Baron steal, which now that the Baron is approaching, we're going to be looking at what are the options available, how does Rogue actually set up for this Baron, will they bother or will they just fight?
Finn flashes in and knocks back Company, uses the Feather Storm to try and get away, flashes across the wall, Larssen shuffles in. That's 2 kills straight away for Rogue, really not too much you can do against that. Cabochard has to just slice and dice back towards his turret. Now, Steeelback was looking for a flank this entire time. He hid back here from when Rogue started up the Baron the first time, and maybe, just maybe, he is the single ray of hope for Vitality. They'll look for a Baron steal as the Rift Herald charged in and was taken down. Skeanz is on his way, has the smite. He has equal level with Inspired, so it would be a pure 50-50 if he can get in, but it looks like Rogue are just going to take it too quickly.
Yep. And so now, with the threat of a Baron gone, Rogue is in firm control of this game. 10k gold advantage. Vitality's hopes of qualifying for playoffs are unfortunately disappearing. Given the score deficit with only, what, I think after this 5 games left?
Yep.
There's just no way for them to catch up. So let's have a look back at Finn's play. He has the flash, he has the Q to gain the movement speed, uses the minions to set up the double stun, and then he prioritizes getting the XAYAH in. XAYAH, of course, does have the flash, but it's not enough to escape from Hans Summer and Larssen to chase them down.
It's the thing about KALISTA, as soon as she gets ahead, it's so difficult to get away from her because she's just jumping, chasing. And you can see right there, basically impossible for Comp to do anything, even burning his ultimate and the flash. Rogue will get their second dragon of the game, not too impactful at this point, as we expect them to use this Baron in a couple of lanes and try and push in. The mid lane turret is tier 2 is down, the bot lane tier 2 is down, only one tier 2 remains, and that will fall forthwith as Hans Summer and Vander are just, well, demolishing it pretty darn quickly. 11,000 gold lead, as you said, Vedius, and Vitality really have less than a 90% chance of winning this game. Less than a 10%, that's what you said earlier, wasn't it? Yeah, less than a 10% chance. Definitely less than 90%. As Cabochard TP's in behind them.
Well, this seems to be the last-ditch effort from Vitality. The Hail Mary play. Let's see if they can hold the line. Hans Summer just freely hitting onto the inhibitor in the top lane.
Cabochard TP behind them and then just slices and dices straight past the Sun Disc. The inhibitor falls. in the top lane. The 3-level discrepancy in the mid right now. 3 levels in the AD carry role as well. Now with this cannon minion, Rogue can wait. There's another wave on its way. It's going wave to wave, not lane to lane. And pretty sharpish, you have to expect. Rogue is just going to knock down this one as well. Super minions have started.
Yeah, they can dive if they want, but here comes Steeelback.
Gets one, the showstopper knocks him back, but the charge is just dead before he even hits the ground. Selfie short to follow. This has been a demolition from Rogue. They really haven't met up with too much resistance. Vitality tried their hardest, but Rogue were just so much better than them today. And they keep their hopes of making playoffs very much alive here, Rogue. Looking like they'll be ending up 4th or 5th. Of course, they've got a few difficult games to go. Still Fnatic to play as they jump in. Cabochard forced back to the fountain. The Nexus Tower should be the target here for Rogue. Only 1 remain. And unfortunately, Vitality are knocked out of playoffs contention, but Rogue are still there. And Rogue is still there.
That was a winner.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Rogue are soldering forward, still contesting for the top spots.
Yeah, I messed that one.
They've now equalized the scoreline with the top 3 teams. Of course, they still have a skid. They still need to go up against some of the other top teams.
Yeah, they have Fnatic and G2 next week.
Yes,
and then
of course,
SK
next week is
in
going
their
to be
final week.
Next week is going to be the toughest week for Rogue, but this is the level of performance that you want against one of the teams at the bottom of our standings. Rogue obviously looking very convincing, showcasing the clear caliber of players that they bring to our league. And this is the benchmark that you have to meet in order to challenge a team like Rogue.
Now tied with Misfits, of course, in that 4th spot. Fnatic, G2, and Origin all sit 1 win ahead of them. Vitality, as they said a lot on the analyst desks, I think the players have had a little bit of a bad rap. There have been moments of skill, moments of brilliance from them. Skeanz especially has shown pretty well for his rookie split on the LEC stage, but they can only play spoiler. They cannot make it to playoffs themselves.
Yep. Commiserations, of course, to Vitality, but Rogue continuing on with the siege. The top of the standings rather, are of course very competitive, and Rogue, I think, have showcased that they're definitely in contention. There's a lot of debate right now about how they stack up against the likes of Misfits. We'll have to wait and see, of course. Their playoff spot is looking very convincing right now. Nothing is, of course, locked in just yet, but a big win here is definitely very promising.
I think the thing about it is it's the 2-game cushion, right? They now have a 2-win cushion over XL, who are sitting in 7th place.
Yes.
XL have some very difficult games coming up. Misfits today, Fnatic G2 next week, Origin in the final week. So if you can make sure you're just a couple of wins ahead of them, it's very unlikely that you fall down to that 7th spot. Your key player of the game votes are at LEC on Twitter. Vander, Inspired, and Larssen are your options. I think they all had good games. I think Hans was very good as well, so overall.
I like that the votes here have clearly given all the credit to Vander and setting up for Hans to be able to get those
Vander.
kills.
Always Vander. Schalke are looking to pull off an upset win against Mad Lions. And before that game, we'll get some more insight from Finn. So we'll see you after this.